guys, it's Amanda from The Fiction Fairy, and today I'm bringing you a review, and my review is on Stolen Songbird, Malediction #1, and this is by Danielle Jensen. This is coming out today, April 1st, 2014, and it is being published by Strange Chemistry. Now, if you guys remember way back, this was one of my WoW videos, and we did on Wednesday, and then I ended up being able to get an ARC of this book, and I was super duper excited about it. It's my first kind of toes dipped into the water with fantasy, so I could not wait to read this. So first things first, as always, let's talk about the cover. The cover to me is so pretty. It says fantasy to me. It reminds me very much of like a Lord of the Rings type cover, very fairy tale-ish. It just says that there's going to be fantasy in this book, magic, wondrous things. So I really did enjoy this cover. I thought it was very pretty with all of its greens. Things that I liked about this book were that it was my first introduction to fantasy or semi-fantasy. I don't know how some people would categorize it, but to me it was fantasy. So it was my first step into fantasy, and I just absolutely just loved the story layout. I thought the story was so good. I could not stop reading it once I started. Things I disliked about it was that there was just so many characters in this book, and it's a dislike on my part. It's not a dislike per se for the book. Again, this was my first step into fantasy, and from what I'm beginning to understand is that fantasy tends to have a lot of characters, and a lot of characters that aren't necessarily just side characters, that have integral parts in the story. So there's a lot of them that you have to remember, and their background, and their names, and what they do. And so for me, it was kind of hard to like wrap my head around that, since this was my first fantasy book. So I was like still reeling from that, constantly remembering that, oh yeah, these characters are going to come back again. So that for me was a dislike at the beginning until I kind of like got a hold of that. As far as the book itself is about a girl named Cecile. Mother left her when she was young. Her mom was like this big opera singer, and that's kind of like what Cecile has always wanted to do. She's always wanted to be a singer like her mother, but she kind of like lives in the country, but at the same time she loves living in the country with her father and helping with the farm and taking care of her siblings and just enjoying everyday life. Cecile has an older brother who is in the army, and she loves him dearly, and she just thinks that as she grows up, she'll be able to still live in the country, but still be able to pursue her dreams as an opera singer. And for her, that is what she sees in her life. Becoming an opera singer, helping her father on the farm in the country, going to have a family, and live her days out the way that she's always seen fit to live them. Unfortunately, things take a horrible turn for her. In the world in which she lives in, it has trolls, and the myth goes that trolls and humans used to live together, and one day there was a witch. They don't know what happened, they don't know why she did it, but she caused an entire mountain to crumble onto a land called Trollless. And this is where the humans and the trolls live together. And when the mountain crumbled onto the land called Trollless, it encapsulated all of its inhabitants. So all the humans and all the trolls that were there were encapsulated underneath the rumble of this mountain that had just crumbled. Well, the trolls were able to dig their way partially out and make it be hollow, but they're still trapped up underneath this mountain. So no longer were trolls allowed to live in the world that contained the sun. They were trapped beneath the world, underneath the rubble of this mountain. And this has been for centuries and centuries and centuries. So Trollless formed its own society with a king, with a queen, with a royal family. And because of the humans that lived in Trollless, because they got captured, stuck up underneath the rumble of the mountain when it collapsed, there were some people who were full trolls. They were full-blooded, 100% trolls. Both parents were trolls. And there were some people who were half-breeds. They were half human, half trolls because of the humans that were left in Trollless when the mountain fell. The witch ends up fleeing. Nobody knows where she is. Nobody knows why she did what she did. But she puts a spell on Trollless that no trolls are ever allowed to come to the surface, that they will always be bound by the rubble of this mountain, and this is where they have to stay for all eternity. So as you can tell, the trolls in Trollless have tried for centuries to get from beneath this mountain, and they just can't. So As with most things, the trolls tend to take the power in Trollless, and the half-bloods become servants because they're seen as less than, because they don't have 100% troll blood, they don't have 100% magic. Now, half-breeds do have some magic, but their magic is substandard to those who are 100% troll. The ones that are half-breeds have maybe like 35 to 50% magic because they do have half human blood, but trolls have 100% magic. They can do all kinds of things. They can fight each other with their magic and never have to touch each other. They can make food come to them. They can make all kinds of things happen, where half-breeds really can just do like silly things like letting the broom clean up the room for them, or just silly things like that. They don't have a lot of magical power, so they're deemed as kind of like misfits and less than, and they get treated really, really bad inside of Trollless. Now, how does this pertain to Cecile, you might say? Well, that is a great question, and this is where we enter the story of wonders, mystery, and fantasy. Cecile is minding her own business one day. She's supposed to go see her mother in the city. She's going to sing at an opera with her mother and basically have her official debut into the society of opera houses and the society that is upper class from the country. She's supposed to wait for her brother to come and take her to the city, because women should not be riding alone because it is dangerous in those times for women. And unfortunately, he is taking a little longer than she had anticipated, and she says, you know what, I'm a strong country city girl, I can do this on my own, I'm going to go ahead and ride to the city, I don't want to miss my big debut tonight, and that is what she does. This proves to be a poor decision on Cecile's part, and not far into her trip, she realizes that she has made a horrible, horrible decision to ride into the city on her own. Things start happening from that point, and it never stops. Cecile realizes that she has been betrayed by somebody who's intricate in her life, who she knows, whom she loved as a friend, and they totally and completely betrayed her. And this is when Cecile comes to know not only the myth of Trollless, but the truth behind Trollless. This story goes above and beyond anything I thought that it was going to be. Cecile ends up getting taken away to Trollless, and she didn't even really know that it existed. She knew it existed like a myth. People would kind of like had spoken about what had happened to Trollless long, long ago, but she'd never heard that anybody had ever been there. So when she makes it to Trollless, she can't even believe her eyes. She can't even believe that she's there. She can't believe that any of this is actually happening. And of course, her first instinct is to flee, to try to get back above ground to the sun. And she tries and tries and tries, and she goes through, several kind of schemes to get away. Some of them turn out better than others. Some of them prove deadly for some people. And eventually she figures out a plan that she thinks could possibly work in the end, and she tries to put that plan forth. Now, the whole time she's trying to get away from Trollless, she realizes that she actually is making a few friends in Trollless, and that she actually is starting to sympathize with the people of Trollless. Cecile thought she was just brought to Trollless as some sort of bargaining tool, maybe for gold or for food or for this, that, and the other. But what she ends up finding out is she's actually there to be bonded to the prince of Trollless. And this is where the story has another intricate turning part, because when you're bonded to somebody, you're bonded for life. If they die, you die. If they feel pain, you feel pain. If they feel joy, you feel joy. They can be 5 miles away, you still feel it. And Cecile ends up getting bonded to this person she doesn't want to be bonded to. He's a freaking troll, for Pete's sake. She doesn't know him. She doesn't love him. She wants nothing to do with him. But she finds out that the reason why she's being bonded with him, because her whole thing is that if they don't like half-breeds, why would they bond a human with a troll? Well, as the myth goes, is that if you bond a certain human who has certain characteristics with a troll prince, then the curse will be broken and the trolls will be able to go above ground. So that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to bond Cecile with the troll prince, so that way the curse can be broken, the trolls can go back above ground, everything can be as it was. There are things that just go terribly, terribly wrong with this bonding, and there are things that go terribly, terribly right with this bonding. Cecile grows up a lot while she's down beneath Trollless. She finds out who she is, and she finds out that sometimes people aren't always as they seem, both good and bad. Sometimes people portray themselves as something good and they're really bad, and sometimes they portray themselves as something bad and they're really good. And she really ends up finding that out the longer that she stays in Trollis. Now, the prince that she's bonded to is named Prince Tristan, and he has such depth of character. I mean, from one moment to the next, he's a different person, and you find out why he is that way. There's just schemes and mysteries and history and myth and just even just within Trollis of what is happening. It's like 7 stories in one. And that's what started to confuse me at first, because I was trying to, some characters I would just brush past, thinking that they were just side characters, not realizing that they're going to continue to keep coming back up, and I need to remember what their role is, what their name is, who they are, because they're intricate parts of the story. And a lot of characters are introduced. Like I said, Tristan's character is full of depth, and so isn't Cecile, especially while she's in Trollis, and she starts to figure out kind of what Tristan is all about, what this kingdom is all about, and what the people of Trollis are kind of all about, and what is really going on beneath the surface. She finds out, all the myths that she heard about trolls, what are true, what are not true. Is it really so bad to be underneath this rock? Does she want to go back to the surface? Does she want to keep fighting for her freedom? What it cost her to keep fighting for her freedom, and what it costs others for her to fight for her freedom. It was just an all-around, just absolutely terrific book. I really, really liked it. I like where the story is going. It is super, super fast-paced. I'm talking about the moment Cecile is captured and taken to Trollis, it just takes off. It is just 100% full force, fantasy, fast-paced, lots of characters, lots of story. The world building was fantastic. I really felt like I was in Trollis. I could picture it in my mind, being underneath the rock. I could picture the kingdom in Trollis. I could picture the magic in Trollis. I could picture everything that was happening. I thought it was absolutely excellent, the way that Danielle Jensen was able to build this world up. I loved the magic that was in Trollis. I loved learning the myth of trolls. I loved learning what was true and not true about trolls. I loved learning the dynamics of the trolls in Trollis and the half-bloods in Trollis, and what they thought of each other, what they thought of Trollis, and what all of them thought about being free. Because sometimes people think that freedom is the best thing you could have, and that everybody wants to be free. Why would you want to be confined to anything, whether it's a room, whether it's a place, whether it's a person? Why do you want to be confined? But what you learn is that sometimes people don't want the type of freedom you want them to have. Sometimes they feel free in their confinement, and they feel comfortable with it. Just because you feel like they should have more freedom than they have doesn't mean that they feel like they should have more freedom than they have. And that was one of the integral parts of this book. It really is just something you just have to read. You just have to, I'm trying to explain it the best way that I can. I really hope that I'm doing a good job, because I really want you guys to pick this book up if you can. You can pick it up from a library or purchase it, or if a friend has it, because I do think that it's a terrific book, especially to introduce you into fantasy. But it just has so much going on. I feel like the people who have read the Mistborn trilogy by Brandon Sanderson, and the people who read Game of Thrones, I feel like those people, when I'm reviewing this, although this is on a much smaller scale than those books, it's that there's just so much going on. It's hard to say without giving away too much, but at the same time, even if I was giving away too much, it's kind of hard to say, because there's so much just going on in this book. But it's so much terrificness that's going on in this book. I just really loved it. I thought it was absolutely fantastic, and I would recommend that you guys go and you pick this up, because Cecile's a terrific character, Tristan is a terrific character, and the story between them is absolutely fantastic. There is no insta-love in this book. This is the most complex relationship I've ever seen, and the most complex romance I've ever seen. It's a strange thing, because it's like an arranged marriage. It's with only half of a willing party. It's fantastic. It was just so good. I can't say anything else but that. I hate to keep repeating myself over and over again like that, but this was a great book, and I recommend that everybody pick it up. If you don't know already, I did give this book a 4 out of 5 stars, or a 4 out of 5 cupcakes, as I would say. And the reason why I did not give it a 4.5 or a 5 is because I felt like There were a few parts in there that could have been expanded upon to just give the reader a better overall view of what was happening. However, it is the first book in what I believe is going to be a trilogy. So it does have 2 more books after this, so I feel like they are going to expand upon that. Because there was so much happening in this first book, I'm not quite sure if the author felt like to expand on a couple of little things would make the book too long and maybe make it go in a direction she didn't want to go to. But for me, I felt like there was a couple little things that I felt like I really wish she had just expanded on that just a little bit more, so I get a little bit more backstory on that. And who knows, maybe there'll be some novellas that come into play here that will tell us about some of the other characters in depth and things that happen in Trollless, a long time ago that will help better explain some things. But overall, I thought this was a terrific book. Again, 4 out of 5 cupcakes, guys. I would definitely recommend that you go pick this up. This is a terrific book. It's a terrific introduction to fantasy. I just really, really, really loved it, and I hope that you guys will pick it up and love it too. If you intend on reading it, please leave me a message in the comments below. If you think that you will enjoy this book, or if you've read something kind of similar to this, especially with Trolls, because this is my first Troll book, leave me a message in the comment below. And if you had an arc of this, or if you just happened to purchase it today and have already gotten started on reading it and want to talk about it, leave a comment below. Let me know what you thought about it. And just thank you so much for coming by The Fiction Fairy and watching my review of Stolen Songbird, the Malediction Trilogy number 1 by Danielle Jensen. Thank you so much, guys.